Good morning to the honorable ministers of the council, members of the media, radio listeners, online viewers, and St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM. I'm Rolika Roach, and welcome to the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, March 28th, 2018. At this time, I invite the Minister of Finance, the Honorable Michael Ferrier, to address you.
Good morning, everyone. Hope we're having a good week. It's Holy Week, and so we must be ready. Ladies and gentlemen, last week I attended the second annual bank conference hosted by the Central Bank of Curaçao and St. Martin, hosted at the CBCS facility in Willemstad, Curaçao. The event featured presentations by central bankers, economists, and leaders in the private, public, and academic sectors from throughout the Caribbean region and further abroad. Amongst the topics covered were the unleashing growth and strengthening the resilience in the Caribbean, financial education emphasizing the need for us to be so-called a banked community. In other words, we should use our banking system instead of hiding our money in paper bags under our mattresses. The dangers of the withdrawal of correspondent banking relations in the Caribbean, very important to St. Martin, because St. Martin imports just about everything, and we need to pay for everything off island, so we must have the availability of correspondent bankers. Another topic was labor productivity as a driver of the economic growth of a country. Labor productivity as a driver. And then the implications of natural disasters on small open economies like ours, which we are experiencing firsthand. Hurricanes have always been and will always be a fact of life in the region we live. The question is, how do we mitigate crippling damage from every passing storm? We must build stronger, plan better, and learn from every calamity event, thereby lowering our vulnerability. As government, we must have frank and open discussions with the island's population. We must manage our expectations. And we must start incorporating risks of disasters in yearly government budgets. As a population, we must become totally sensitized to the idea that everyone must pay his or her fair share of taxes. No self-respecting community can sustain itself by handouts from others. As small as we are, we must now more than ever learn to live within our means. This brings me to Budget 2018. I'm pleased to report that our request to have Article 25 of the Kingdom Law on Financial Oversight to be applicable also in 2018 has been approved by the Kingdom Council of Ministers in a letter dated March 27, 2018 from State Secretary Raymond Knops to our Prime Minister. This allows us to submit an unbalanced but realistic Budget 2018. Also approved is our request for postponement of final submission of the revised Budget 2018 to May 1st of this year. This allows us greater opportunity to include the findings of the IMF report commissioned by us regarding our financial status post-Hurricane Irma, which is to be ready by the latter part of April 2018. In return, we must agree to not allow the deficit of Budget 2018 to exceed 254.7 million guilders, while our expenditures must never exceed 521.5 million guilders. We're also required to make monthly financial reports regarding income, expenditures, and liquidity status, and basically make reports on our overall financial conditions. And this has to be done to the CFT. Lastly, we are obliged to cut government spending to bare bones, as is the case on our sister island, Aruba. I even brought some props. And a plug for the Herald. It says right here, crisis levy for Aruba. I hope everyone was able to read that. Our cabinet, with the input of Prime Minister Romeo Marlin, has come up with a preliminary list of 37 cost-cutting measures which have been presented to the other members of our council for their consideration. As the biggest expense in any government is the cost of its civil service workforce, in many of the proposed measures will, in one way or the other, affect our government employees. So, once our entire Council of Ministers has agreed to the proposed cut-costing measures, we will seek the support and consensus of the workers' unions, and then the approval and endorsement of our Parliament, the highest body of representatives of the people. Getting out of the hole Irma has put us in is very much possible if we make it a concerted, collaborative effort. Finally, I'm very pleased to announce that it has been confirmed that of the 550 million euros the Kingdom government has made available to us for St. Martin's reconstruction, some 470 million, or 85% of that, will end up in the trust fund as a grant, not a loan. That, ladies and gentlemen, should be a boost to our morale and to our Moody's rating. If all goes as planned, Prime Minister Leona Marlin Romeo and I will, on April 16th in Washington, witness the signing of the administrative agreement between Holland and the World Bank, who is to manage the trust fund on behalf of The Hague. And then, let the recovery take off in earnest. I look forward to that moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Ferrier, for your opening remarks. At this time, I invite the Minister of Spatial Planning, Public Housing, Environment and Infrastructure, the Honorable Miklos Gietersen, to address you.
Good morning. Thank you, Ms. Roach. Good morning, Prime Minister, fellow ministers, press, and audience members viewing and listening. This week I will touch base on 3 updates, namely the progress of the works in execution at the Erausquin Boulevard leading to Point Blanche, the UNDP VROMI Collaborative Roof Repair Program, and the generous donation of temporary container homes by the Caribbean China People Foundation. Execution at Erausquin Boulevard is progressing well, despite the traffic congestion it causes for residents and visitors to the area. The works are very important for the country as they include the laying of water lines and high-tension cables by NVGEBE, sewage pressure lines and utility cables by Telem Cable TV, and UTS laying new fiber optic lines. Delays in the completion of the work are caused by unforeseen factors such as large concrete slabs that are found under the road, which are removed. The works on Erausquin Boulevard are scheduled to complete tomorrow on Thursday, and as of April 3rd, works will resume from the Sang Supermarket up to and including the area around Emma Plain Bridge, which is Boncamper Road. All completed areas will be resurfaced, which will improve the traffic flow. The roof repair program of the UNDP, and in collaboration with the Ministry of VROMI, is expected to have its first groundbreaking next week. Repair works will then start at the first home as a time will be, as we will come up with a time with all parties involved, On Monday, March 26, the Ministry of Rummy received a shipment of 19 container homes that were donated by the Caribbean China People Foundation in efforts of alleviating the housing shortage caused by Hurricane Irma. The following containers will be assembled by the Ministry of Rummy, and the Ministry of VSA will be assigning the homes to families in need. I would like to acknowledge and extend my heartfelt gratitude to the Executive Chairman, Mr. Kuchuk of the Caribbean China People, and the members of the organization. This concludes my subject matters for today, and thank you very much. Please have a happy Good Friday and Easter weekend. Thanks.
Thank you, Minister Heatherson, for your opening remarks. At this time, I invite the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, the Honorable Yorin White, to address you.
Thank you, Olaika. Good morning, everyone, members of the press, everybody listening in, my colleagues. Good morning, and indeed wishing everybody a wonderful Holy Week. Last Wednesday, in collaboration with the Culture Department, the first ever Creative Industries Interactive Exchange Forum was held. This all-day event brought together under one roof the luminaries of the creative industries of St. Maarten to dialogue, brainstorm, explore, engage, and be introduced to the concept of the orange economy. From the time you stepped into the front door and saw the installation work created by artist Charisse Piper, encompassing rocks, stones, and pebbles, you knew we were in for a treat. And it was, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to all the contributing artists for letting us display their work throughout the morning and later for the exhibition. The art pieces, combined with the special lighting, sound, photography, and videographic works, the creative arts, were on full display, even in the delicious food that was prepared. Thank you to all the vendors who contributed to their artistic talents. Thank you to the Culture Department that took on the challenge, a very personal challenge that I gave them. And this morning, the new head of the Culture Department will also extend her personal thanks with this wonderful little keychain reading, "Thank you, Team Culture, for a successful first event, the Creative Industries Interactive Exchange Forum 2018, on behalf of the department head. I would like to also personally thank the keynote speaker, Dr. Ryan Peterson, General Manager for Economics Policy at the Central Bank of Aruba. Dr. Peterson, in his presentation, discussed how innovation and creativity went hand in hand and how the creative economy, therefore, was moving away from the traditional creative arts and moving towards digital artistry. In a follow-up discussion after the forum, which I've held with him the next day, he shared that with the right guiding, the creative economy on St. Maarten could grow from its estimated 1.7 contribution to the economy now to an impressive growth to 5 to 7% in the next 5 years, once we give indeed the right incentives and support as government and other contributors. I would also like to thank the panelists for providing an in-depth discussion on how their industry intersected with the creative arts and how collaboration could further support the idea of an orange economy in St. Maarten. Jude Houston, Acting Department Head of Economic Affairs, Alston Lawrence, President of the St. Maarten Carnival Development Foundation, Melissa Boosman, Pageant Coordinator and Co-founder of Calaboom Events, Rolando Bryson, Director of the St. Maarten Tourism Bureau, and the Head of the Culture Department, Clara Reyes. Each panelist was tasked with delivering a presentation that elucidated on how their respective industries interacted with the creative arts. All presenters agreed that St. Maarten had the enormous potential to develop a vibrant creative industry that would greatly add to the economic gross domestic product. Kicking off the panel discussion was a special video presentation from Lisa Harding, who is the coordinator of micro, small and medium enterprise development at the Caribbean Development Bank in Barbados, and whom also I would also like to express my gratitude for taking and for making that special video with presentation highlighting the possibilities to tap into the Caribbean Development Fund. The workshops on the creation of an artist guild and the future of the Culture Prize was led by Fabian Badijo, Marlene Mingo and Josiane Artsen Fleming, and I would also like to thank them for their stimulating and vibrant presentations and assistance as facilitators. A special note of thanks goes to notary Marlene Mingo, who generously offered her complimentary services in the setting up of a proposed artist guild on St. Martin. The day concluded with an interdisciplinary digital arts exhibition featuring notable artists living and creating their work on St. Martin. The works ranged in varied disciplines from digital mixed media to animators, visual artists, sculptors, fashion designers to poets. The highlight of the evening, of course, was the awarding of the 2018 Culture Prize. Young Cochiquetzo Gonzalo Torres, an 18-year-old student of the Charlotte Broxton Academy, was awarded the prize for her digital art piece. She was presented a unique plaque that was designed by local artists Loic Bryan and Zuleika and Tyrone Peterson. As Minister of Culture, I saw this as a unique opportunity for artists on our island to explore the possibilities that can be sourced through the creative industries. Through this forum, sharing of ideas and building on them will create the seedlings from which the creative industries can thrive. The work done last week will benefit us and those that follow, as significant steps were taken towards the establishment of the St. Martin's creative economy. Now, therefore, switching from culture to sports. On Monday, and some of the media may have been present, a press conference was held right here in this room where the Department of Sports officially launched their 4th annual sports awareness campaign. The campaign this year, as explained by the department head, Jonelle Richardson, has as its main components their annual conference, the Sports Day open house, and now I have also requested to include a special business mixer. On April 5th and 6th, the annual sports conference will therefore be held. This conference provides government and the Department of Sports the opportunity to meet with the various sports organizations on the island and provide the chance to connect, outline the plans with an NSI, with the sports department, and with other sports associations to better understand what the organizations themselves are doing, to better develop sports on St. Martin and identify ways in which we can collaborate with one another. This year's conference will be organized in partnership with the Netball Association, and discussion topics will include good governance, child protection, fundraising and marketing. On April 6th, on the second day of the conference, there will be a special sports mixer, which will provide a very important opportunity for businesses or other donors to connect with the National Sports Institute and see what and how partnerships can be created. As you all may know, many of our sports facilities were destroyed after the passing of last year's hurricanes, and our capacity to maintain the level of sporting activities that we once enjoyed should indeed and has been severely diminished. The government of St. Martin, through this ministry, authorized extra payments to the NSI to facilitate the repair of basketball courts to start off with, and indeed the Melford Hazel Sports Center. However, these extra payments, along with anticipated insurance disbursements, will unfortunately not be enough to repair and restore what was lost. In doing my part as Minister of Sports, a letter has been drafted and will be sent out to the business community, where I emphasize the need for public-private partnerships in recognizing the urgency of getting our sports facilities and sports programs back to pre-hurricane shape. Also, via this medium, I'm hereby again reaching out to the businesses and other potential donors to partner with the NSI, the sports department, and also our Olympic Sports Federation to support our hashtag Sports Matter and hashtag Sports Step Up for Sports Awareness campaign to build back better. Now, more than ever, in this recovery stage, it is critically important that persons have a place where they can go to release everyday stresses as engaging in sports releases endorphins that boost moods and encourages positive social interaction, as has also been recognized by my colleague Mike Verrier on a regular basis. Leading up to these events, the department will also, in the coming days, launch their hashtag #StepUpForSports challenge. So look out for more information in the media and via the Department of Sports and the Ministry's Facebook pages. As I missed last week's press briefing due to the forum, I was unable to update the media on my first visit to House of Parliament as Minister, where I and members of my team provided an update to the members of Parliament on the status of the Ordinance for Higher Education. The draft is advancing rapidly, and in short, we shall start informal consultations with stakeholders such as, of course, the USM. The draft, after it has been vetted by the Council of Ministers and our Legal Affairs Department, will be reviewed in formal consultations. During my presentation to Parliament, I was able to identify 6 key issues facing Sint Maarten which are tying the economic growth agenda and the needs of the labor market directly to the educational agenda for higher tertiary education. Some of these issues are accepting the realities for the level of ambition when focusing on the role of education, but also the importance to, when we discuss higher education, to attract not only our own students, but also foreign students to participate in our higher education facilities. Also the importance that the government, of course, is willing to invest and pay the core cost for higher education until a maximum percentage. And last but not least, for instance, the importance to also ensure that quality assurance through specialized agencies and organizations is necessary to maximize international quality assurance standards, and that to ensure that we indeed live up to that international universal education standard, and that we also therefore should consider the possibility to partner with well-known foreign public education institutes on our island. The draft version of the LVO will be shared with the USM for consultation as of next week. And that is, I believe, very important to ensure that we make progress on the promises that were made earlier and that we live up to the expectation of having the legislation passed by the end of the year. In addition to these highlights, I would also like to make some final updates. For instance, a very interesting highlight last week, the possibility for me to be present at a presentation at the Oranje School in town. It was a project building a disaster resilient school, as initiated and supported by UNICEF. René Dierks is a PhD professor in school-friendly school facilities, or student-friendly school facilities, and he engaged 7 students in indeed their ability to consider, think out, and develop projects that indeed relate to disaster resilient schools. I was pleasantly surprised by their vision, by their ideas of practical solutions of how we can indeed make small improvements to do better. I would like to therefore also commend the school manager, Sonia Parrott-Warner, and her team, together with the students, for that wonderful presentation that they made Friday afternoon. Another pleasant highlight of last week was a presentation by the Exam Bureau. The Division of Examinations, in collaboration with the Caribbean Examinations Council, held trainings for the music and physical education and sports teachers. In May, a 3rd training of teachers will take place in collaboration with the Caribbean Examinations Council, and this training will be for the visual arts teachers. The objective of this training is to have locally trained expertise able to act as external examiners or moderators and conduct the practical examinations. Mrs. Marion Byron held a 3-day training on March 21st through March 23rd, and 4 teachers have been trained of which one will be the moderator, external examiner for the 2018 CSEC music exams to be held in March and in May. The year 2015 was a significant year in the history of education on St. Maarten, as the subject music was introduced as an examination subject with its first student registered. This student of the St. Maarten Academy, Jabari York, topped the regional top 10 list and placed first. In 2016, there were no students registered for music examinations. From 2017 registration, 3 students placed in the top 10 in the Caribbean region. And these students are Jacinthe Honkens, placed first in the region of St. Maarten Academy, Kevin Lambert, placed 6th in the region of St. Dominic High, Jerome Honkens, placed 8th in the region, also of St. Maarten Academy. In 2018, we have 11 students registered for music examination, and that is encouraging. 5 are from the Charlotte Brookson Academy, and 6 are from the Mac Secondary School. In the past, we relied on an external examiner from Anguilla to come and conduct the practical parts of the music examinations. We now have our own examiner trained to conduct these exams on St. Maarten ourselves. And this is therefore relevant to understand that these students are opting for music or physical education as their exam subjects, and that's encouraging. And therefore now, for the first time, a physical education and sports training took place from March 20th until March 22nd. Mrs. Nicholas Sammy conducted the training of 6 physical education teachers. The subject physical education and sports offered for the first time on St. Maarten as an examination subject. We have 27 candidates registered at the Mac Secondary School and 2 students of the St. Maarten Academy that have indeed decided to opt for physical education as an exam subject. And that's encouraging. And I wish therefore these students with their examinations ahead in the months of May, much success. These candidates will be doing practical examinations in various sports, namely volleyball, basketball, football, and badminton. And that practical examinations will start as of the week in April 16th. These are some of my highlights that I wanted to share this morning with the media. I am, of course, open for further questions that the media may have. We are, of course, also happy to notice the progress made in some of the repairs by Melford Hazel Sports Center, and we look forward indeed for the completion of the fencing of the public schools in the weeks ahead and the start of the repairs of the basketball courts, unfortunately due to a slight misunderstanding and delay. Thank you, everyone, and wishing you a wonderful weekend of Easter and family time ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Whiteside, for your opening remarks. At this time, I invite the Minister of Justice and Acting Minister of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transport, and Telecommunication, the Honorable Cornelius de Wever.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Good morning, Madam Prime Minister, fellow colleagues, ministers. Good morning, St. Maarten. Friday, March 30th, 2018 is an official holiday, Good Friday. In keeping with the law on shop closures, all places of business must be closed on this day. This includes all standalone casinos. In accordance with Article 3 of the law on shop closure, the aforementioned is not applicable to the following businesses: pharmacies, bars and restaurants, hotels and guest rooms, stores located in the hotels on the airport and as well as the harbor premises, funeral parlors, gas stations, and bakeries. No dispensation will be granted for places of business to be open on Good Friday, March 30th, 2018, unless otherwise stipulated by the minister. I wish everyone a safe, long holiday weekend, and for those celebrating the memorial, do enjoy. I was not here last week, and I missed you as well. I was traveling for business purposes, and I just wanted to give an update so that the people understand some of the reasons why we travel and what is being accomplished during these travels. The first trip was to the Dominican Republic, and I want to thank the ambassador to the Netherlands in the DR, Mr. Rob de Leeuw, for his hospitality as well as for arranging many of the meetings that we had scheduled. One of them was to a couple of the harbor facilities in the DR, and also one in Boca Chica, and there was one also in Santo Domingo, so 2 parts of that country. This was for those who are going to be moving their boats during the next few months. Those sunken boats that have been risen from the bottom of the lagoon, for example, they're going to be put on the barge and sent to the DR to be either shredded, and the fiberglass will be recycled. So we wanted to make sure that everything is in order as well, because these boats will be coming to St. Martin to remove them. The other thing that we have is that those that are insured will be picked up and removed, but those that are uninsured are for the responsibility of government. So we're also looking at the possibility of them doing that as well. And of course, we have to follow proper procurement procedures. We also visited a prison in the San Cristobal of the Dominican Republic, where they have been using a new prison system which focuses a lot on education as well as skill building to avoid repeat criminals circulating through the prison like a revolving door. The other one was for a tour of the free zone in Las Americas. That one, they offer, these companies that are established there are offered free or zero corporate taxes, but significant job creation is achieved. There is a high standard of infrastructure, services, and solutions for tenants in an innovative and most effective way. The facility has high standards in service reliability, safety, and cost containment. This type of facility is an economic opportunity for St. Martin, hence the reason for this visit, so that we can see what the free zone area entails and how it operates. A feasibility study will be carried out to investigate if a free zone on St. Martin is profitable and suitable. The second meeting was with Mr. Rafael Vargas regarding the Cyber Park. And this is the country's premier high technology park. The park consists of 3 components: the high education part, that is Technological Institute of Americas. The park also houses manufacturing services for local and international companies. The Cyber Park is another way to diversify the St. Martin economy, and the main points of concern that we foresee sometimes are the lack of space, logistics, as well as incentives and education. Then we visited the American Airlines headquarters as well as Spirit, and the objective for the meeting with American Airlines was that to let them know that the destination is doing everything to restore business, airlift, and confidence in the destination. It was therefore prudent to have contact with one of the oldest serving St. Martin, one of the oldest serving carriers serving St. Martin, and provide them with the information it needs to make decisions with restoring its past level of St. Martin air services as soon as possible. Mr. Peter Vittori, Managing and Sales Director and Marketing for Latin America and the Caribbean, hosted a meeting with his entire team from across the United States who handles the Caribbean and St. Martin in particular. The Minister of Tourism led a delegation, well, myself, Mr. Hyman, Mr. Ricardo Perez of the SHTA, as well as Ms. La Vega, the Chef of the Cabinet. Overall, we discussed the yield management, which is the pricing of tickets that some people have been complaining about on both ends. But of course, when it comes to supply and demand, Economics 101 demands that they pretty much do whatever they can to profit. It is a business pretty much like a hotel and anything else. With Spirit, which is a low-cost carrier, they will begin services on May 5th, and they have been providing service to St. Martin for almost a decade. Before Irma, there were weekly flights from Fort Lauderdale with 228 seats, and they were considering moving to 2 weekly flights. Since Irma, they of course had stopped, but now they're going to start back on May 5th. We look forward to inviting them as well and doing great business. It is important that we not look just at the cost of flights, but also that we have enough rooms available. Right now we're at 50%, and we need more rooms. Of course, the construction is ongoing, and flights and hotel rooms kind of go hand in hand, so you're not going to get more flights if you don't have enough rooms to keep them here. So we still have a lot of work to do, and we will continue to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister DeWeaver, for your opening remarks. At this time, I invite the Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, the Honorable Leona Romeo Marlin, to address you.
Good morning. By way of this press briefing, I would like to hereby invite all district community councils, those established and those that are looking to be established, to a meeting on Hurricane Season Preparation 2018. The meeting will be kept at the Government Administration Building, Meeting Room 1, March 29th from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. The objective of this meeting is to raise awareness and start a community-based approach to the district community councils as part of the hurricane season preparation by involving them in the early process. During the meeting, presentations will be given on the Emergency Operating Center, EOC, and specifically Emergency Support Function 7, we call it ESF 7, who is responsible for shelter management, organizing a district community volunteers and distribution of relief aid after the passing of a hurricane. So I urge the community councils to take advantage of this opportunity to connect with government as we prepare for hurricane season 2018. At this time, let me take the opportunity to thank all stakeholders that are involved thus far in helping us in this endeavor. With regards to the cooperation between St. Martin, the World Bank, and the Netherlands, many of you will have read about the letter that State Secretary Raymond Knops sent to the Dutch Parliament last Friday on the current pace of the recovery of St. Martin. In his letter, the State Secretary discusses many things, including the current state of the preparations for the trust fund, the financial scope of the trust fund, and the kind of projects that can be financed by the trust fund. As Prime Minister, I am grateful for the excellent cooperation with State Secretary Knops and for the financial assistance that the government of the Netherlands has made available for St. Martin. The next step that we are really waiting for, however, is the actual establishment of the trust fund, because only when the trust fund is in place can St. Martin start with the early projects that are currently needed to prepare the country for the hurricane season. Earlier this week, I communicated with the State Secretary to emphasize the need to move on quickly. I'm happy to report that he has personally ensured me that the agreement with the Dutch and the World Bank will be signed in mid-April in Washington, the date April 16 to be exact. We also agreed that once the trust fund is in place, the Netherlands, the World Bank, and St. Martin will not lose any unnecessary time to start building St. Martin back better. I will endeavor to keep the population of St. Martin updated as we move towards the start of financing of recovery projects. As it relates to reconstruction, and to add to the Honorable Minister of Vroomy's notice, on Monday morning, I met with Richard Blewett of the UN Resident Coordinator and Freddie Ostili of the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, who gave an update on the activities they have been undertaking. Namely, the UNDP roof repair program, which is being executed in close collaboration with the Ministry of Vroomy, as indicated, is slated to begin first week of April, according to the meeting. The UNDP expects to complete approximately 100 to 150 houses by the end of June 2018. If the roof repair program meets all its targets by the end of June, the UNDP has expressed interest in the possibility of extending the reconstruction program to a phase 2, which will include house reconstruction for homes that were severely damaged and and were not taken up in phase 1 of the roof repair program. Additionally, the UNDP is carrying out a cash for work and debris removal program through the early recovery funds from the Netherlands with a budget of $600,000 that entails the cleanup of debris throughout the districts on St. Martin. Contractors are asked to take on extra workers from the districts to encourage employment. Going forward, the UNDP has the goal of seeking additional funding to start a business mentoring and incubation program and an early learning program focused on vocational training in cooperation with NEPA in Cahill. Further details will be given on these 2 initiative programs at a later date. In conclusion, as we enter the Easter holidays, may the spirit of Easter fill each of our hearts with joy, not only gladness and happiness, and give us a reason to hold on when times are tough. Regardless of tough times, this is still a time to celebrate new beginnings and new life, the resurrection. During the upcoming holidays, I would like to ask residents, guests, and specifically families to exert all safety measures, especially if you are using our beaches. To the Christian family, Christ's empty grave is proof that no matter how bad things may seem, there is always way for hope, a new day, so let us all rejoice in the resurrection. I await your questions.
Sports fans, on Friday, April 6th, the Department of Sports under the hashtag #SportsMatter brings to you a mixer to help raise funds that will go towards the repair of 4 major sports facilities. Come out to the Government Administration Building from 6 to 8 p.m. and pledge your support to help build back our sports facilities better and stronger. The Mixer, Friday, April 6th, 6 to 8 p.m. at the Government Administration Building. Because #SportsMatter.
If you have just joined us, you are watching the live Council of Ministers press briefing. Thank you for joining us. We now go over to the question and answer session. The floor is open. Lyndon Brown of BCN TV, you have the floor and you have 3 questions.
Good morning to the listening audience and the ministers. Question to Minister Geddison. Congratulations that works are happening in the community, rebuilding the roofs. But could you explain to the people the criteria? Because a lot of people are complaining that they're not getting their roof fixed fast enough. And I believe they need to understand the procedure so that they can be eligible.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Brown. The criteria for the roof repair program are a set of criteria that the Ministry of VROMI and VSA came up with. The public would have to go through the Ministry of VSA to apply for roof repair. I would rather the Ministry of VSA elucidate on the criteria for the roof repair, and I will try to schedule a press release with these criteria. Right? Thanks.
If I may add to the minister's response, indeed, there are criteria, and the appropriate minister to answer that is the Minister of VSA. But what I would like to state is that criteria are set because not every house can be repaired in the sense of we are building back, but are we building back better? Are we taking precautions so you can put something quickly, but that does not mean that you're building back better, and the objective is to build back better. So indeed, when the Minister of VSA, and I believe pretty soon, as you indicated, that he's going to come out with the criterias, but that falls under that ministry. But there are criterias, and as indicated in the newspapers, we do understand the frustration of some who didn't meet that criteria, and we are looking into relaxing some of those criteria, but the objective is for us to build back better.
Okay, question to Minister Mike Ferry. Presently now, the workforce in St. Martin are fading. Do the government of St. Martin will be importing people to work, because I have heard that people are coming in, company and other people for jobs, because there are a lot of jobs on the island and they are not, the workforce is not available.
So you're asking me if people are coming in to work? I would assume that if there are no people, if there are people on the island that do not have the skills necessary to do a particular job, it is, our system allows for people from outside to request to come in to work. I think it is important that all skilled persons, all persons in fact who are seeking jobs, that they register with the labor office so that we have a proper inventory of who is out of work and who is available, so that when a request comes in for a foreigner to come in, that we first check and make sure we have no one local to do it, and if not, we will, I assume, take all the criteria into consideration that is needed to approve or disapprove of such a request.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown, this is your final question.
To Minister De Wever. Okay, you mentioned that, well, tomorrow is Good Friday, and the after, sorry. The Southern establishment, do you have a criteria for all establishment? I heard you mention the casino. Can you just make it clear again so that the businesses on the island can know exactly?
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Just to reiterate, all places of business must be closed on this day, and that includes standalone casinos. The ones that are allowed to open are pharmacies, bars and restaurants, hotels and guest houses, stores located in hotels, on the airport or the harbor, funeral parlors, gas stations, and bakeries selling pastries, milk, and milk products. Those are the only ones, unless they've gotten dispensation from the minister, and I have not given any dispensations so far.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister De Wever, for your remark. Mr. Brown, thank you for your question. Honorable ministers of the council, members of the media, radio listeners, and online viewers, this brings us to the end of the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, March 28th, 2018. For video on demand, log on to the official government's website at www.stmartingov.org. On behalf of the Department of Communication, I'm Rolika Roach, and do have a pleasant day.
Sports fans, on Friday, April 6th, the Department of Sports under the hashtag Sports Matter, brings to you a mixer to help raise funds that will go towards the repair of 4 major sports facilities. Come out to the Government Administration Building from 6 to 8 p.m. and pledge your support to help build back our sports facilities better and stronger. The Mixer, Friday, April 6th, 6 to 8 p.m. at the Government Administration Building, because hashtag Sports Matter.
When disaster strikes, it affects all of us.
Yeah, girl. Tell Desan to come and see me. I'll put her name at the top of the list.
You need to know that as a citizen, your rights are always protected.
I just need help.
Here, fill those out.
I have filled out this form 3 times already. I need help. This is just a waste of time.
If you feel your rights have been violated or have a legitimate complaint against any government body, even in these troubling times, we are here to listen to and act upon your concerns. The Ombudsman will use all of its resources to seek a fair resolution, keeping the government fully accountable. The Ombudsman, protecting your rights. Brought to you by the International Ombudsman Institute.